Okay. Good evening. I am calling to order the September 10th, 2024 Fountain City Council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rick.
Here.
Councilmember Hinton.
Here.
Councilmember Applegate.
Here.
Councilmember Estes.
Here.
Councilmember Hersberg.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Present.
I have 7 members present.
Thank you very much. Before we begin on presentations tonight, tomorrow is September 11th, so I would like to go ahead and read something that I wrote up. On September 10th, 2001, we all went to sleep expecting September 11th, 2001 to be a similar day to the 10th. We planned on having breakfast, getting the kids ready for school, going to work, and whatever the day may held. My family and I were on vacation with a little work thrown in. My husband had a meeting the next morning, so instead of camping, we opted to stay in a hotel near the airport where his meetings would be. The kids and I arranged for a late checkout, a leisurely morning by the pool, and then planned to find something to do in town. A typical morning similar to what many families had planned, just an ordinary day. Being on the West Coast, the horrific attacks on the East Coast were already underway when we awoke. Since we hadn't turned on the TV yet, we were shocked when my husband returned to the room to turn on the TV using a voice I have seldom heard from him. Today, many years later, we struggle to fully comprehend the loss of that day, the conflicts it led to, and the additional losses and struggles our nation and individuals would continue to have for many years after. But what stood out about that day and the days to come was the unity of not only a nation, but neighbors helping neighbors, blood drives with people waiting for blocks, and kindness of people to each other. Tomorrow, there will be ceremonies in remembrance of 9/11, honoring those we lost and their families and friends, and that is the way it should be. There will be stair climbs by firefighters and others recreating and honoring the stairs the New York Fire Department climbed up the Twin Towers. It also has become a day of service to remember them by providing unsolicited help to a neighbor or stranger, offering another way to honor those that we lost. Tonight, I ask you, if possible, to rise and have a moment of silence and honor for 9/11/2001 and those lost and injured on 9/11. May God bless America. Thank you. All right, that takes us on to presentations. Department update, Chief Graham. That's rather appropriate, isn't it? Fire department update tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, ma'am, thank you for that, and thank you for mentioning the stair climb. We do have a group of Fountain firefighters that'll be up at the Denver stair climb tomorrow, participating in that, as has become the annual tradition. So very proud of them for that. With regard to the department update, run you through a few things, some of our current stuff that we have going on. Chris, if you would go to slide 2. This is our updated organizational chart. This is something that we've adjusted in the last year. You'll see it again in your budget notebook. The previous chain of command or org chart was a little bit different than this, looked a little bit nebulous compared to this. This is just more in line with what a traditional fire service or org chart would look like. And you'll see the addition of the division chiefs that weren't on the previous org chart. Just to get more in line with traditional fire service chain of command. As we go on to the next slide, you'll see just a snapshot of our year-to-date statistics. These dates were, these stats were harvested on the date of 8/22, and so they've got a little bit of age on them. But total calls for service as of 8/22 is 3,788. And on the next slide, when we get to it, you'll see a comparison for the previous years. On this slide, I call out a few things of interest, a few different categories of calls for service of interest that I thought you might be interested in. particularly our structure fires, vehicle fires, and wildland fires, and additionally on the EMS side, our total number of transports, cardiac arrests, and our invasive procedures. If you see on the invasive procedures, we're talking specifically about intubations, which is the tubes, endotracheal intubations, where the tube goes into the trachea and we breathe for our patients, and also our needle decompressions, which are performed essentially inserting a needle into our patient's chest to relieve pressure in there. So these are a little bit more on the edgier side of some of the procedures that we perform. Just wanted to call attention to the number of those. If there's any questions on this, I'll certainly come back to it. I don't want to dwell on these, but just wanted to give you a snapshot. On the next slide, you'll see our comparison for the last several years. That top bar is, as you can see, 2024, and that's what we're on pace to be. I'm just doing some simple math. Our call volume has stayed relatively flat over the last 4 years. Haven't seen any real spikes or drawbacks on our calls for service, which helps make our workload a little bit more predictable. The 2020 drop-off there was as a result of the pandemic, and when things changed drastically, it was no different for us in our call volume as well. As we go on to the next slide, this is a snapshot of our staffing, our current staffing. And on the left, you'll see our 2023 onboarded, the number of personnel that we brought on versus the number of personnel that we out-processed. And the one thing I would say, the takeaway from this is I believe that our staffing, as far as onboarding and out-processing, is largely stabilized. We're not seeing these drastic swings of bringing in large numbers and losing large numbers. I think we've largely stabilized. I think there's a number of factors involved in that that we could talk about, some of them anecdotal, but our increased pay through the 2B initiative, I think, is a big part of that. I think our transition from a combination volunteer department to a full-time paid department is a factor in that. But whatever it is, I'm happy to report that I feel like our staffing, our big swings are gone, at least for now. As of right now, we are short one. We had become fully staffed. We had a resignation last week of his own accord, some issues in his own personal life. It just wasn't the right time for him to join a fire department, and he decided to resign. So we are right now currently short one position. As we move on to the next slide, some of our recent accomplishments, and I think a lot of you are very familiar with most of the items on this. Obviously, the new ladder truck. We had to train 10 new aerial operators, which is a whole different level of certification for our driver operators to be certified to operate that new aerial ladder truck. So that was a process of training and then subsequently testing and certification that we were able to complete. And then that third bullet point on the left is calling out our improvement of our ISO rating from a Class 3 to a Class 2. And we have not to this date done a big media push on that or a big release on that, and there's a reason for that. There's a cool-off period from the time that ISO releases those results until they are comfortable with us publishing it. We're past that. Certainly feel comfortable with that information being out there and doing a little bit more of a media push on that, but definitely something that we're proud of to make that improvement from a Class 3 to a Class 2. And then along with the 2B initiatives that we were able to accomplish is reclassifying 4 firefighters to lieutenants and then reclassifying 9 firefighters to drivers. And so putting them through a promotional process and making that happen. On the right-hand side, you'll see a number of more capital type expenses that we've done as far as purchasing a new ambulance, rechassing an ambulance. One of the big things that I'll call out is the UC Health Athletic Trainer Program. You'll see that again coming up in the budget cycle. This is a program that has proven to be very beneficial to our firefighters. We have a UC Health athletic trainer that comes in and spends 30 hours throughout the month with us, evaluating our PT programs, evaluating our employees, if we have an employee that has a strain or a sprain, they're able to make that evaluation. And potentially, the hope is that we have a reduction in workers' comp claims. Again, a lot of the evidence is very anecdotal at this point, but I can tell you that I believe that this is a beneficial program that we need to continue at least for another year, so that we can have a little more firm empirical data to make an opinion on whether it's a continued program or not. As we move on to the next slide, some of our major initiatives that we have upcoming, you'll see our current and our future, and many of those coincide on both the current and the future because our current initiatives are more in the planning phase. Our planning for Fire Station 4, our CRASOC, which we'll talk about here in a minute. I know we talked about that last meeting, which ties directly to updating our strategic plan. Along with the fire station comes the need for a new fire engine. We've got some things in the works, planning an updated fireground trainer, something that our personnel would have the ability to do some fireground training without having to go over to Fort Carson. Right now, we don't have the ability to do that. I've got a slide showing what that looks like here in a second. We have identified the need for a renovation at Fire Station number 3. Also will be a budget item this year, as well as NFPA physicals that we'll be asking for in the budget upcoming. Those are the things that we have in the planning stage right now, and in the future, execution of those plans over on the right-hand column as well. For a lot of these that are in our current planning initiatives, we'll drill down, you'll see again in the budget planning meetings that are coming up. So we go to the next slide. I think we've got some pictures for you. There on the left is our a picture of what we have envisioned as what we call a Connex trainer. This is taking a number of Connex boxes, assembling them together and having a structure for our firefighters to do training, fireground training, vent enter search. This is not intended to be something that we would do live fire training in. This would be just the ability to use safe smoke, still be able to go in and do the type of training that we need to do that we just don't really have the ability to do that within our own district. And so we think we can do that very cost effectively and with little time devoted to it. The Station 3 renovation, again, this is something that'll be on your radar during budget for us to talk about, but this is something that we're spending some time on right now, planning out and mapping out what we need to do for that. As we go to the next slide, you'll see again, we've all seen this slide. This is just a conceptual drawing of what Fire Station 4 could look like. I'll spend a little time right here talking about where we're at right now. As we talked in our strategic planning meetings, I think I advised the council that the site had been selected and that we were going to move forward with the location being at Watchman and Link. And so kind of the next step for that is to, as we're walking through this planning process, is to get a sign up denoting that as the future home, the future location of Fountain Fire Station number 4. I will certainly communicate that with the council and with the community prior to that sign going in. We're working on that right now, coordinating getting that sign installed. But in the background, there's obviously much more activity going on this project. And we had a meeting this morning, Scott, Mr. Trainer, Shauna, and I discussing, and there'll be more information coming forthcoming to the council in the near future about this plan. As we go to the next slide, I listed this under challenges, and there's a reason for that, and I was very strategic and intentional about that. But one thing I wanted to spend just another quick second talking about, I talked about it last meeting, but is our CRASOC, which stands for Community Risk Assessment Standard of Cover project that we're working on right now. And essentially what this is at its core, at its most basic form, is a risk versus capabilities analysis of the community. And so basically, what are the risks that we have in our community and what are our capabilities to meet those risks? Ultimately, a CRASOC risk assessment methodology helps drive a department's strategic planning. And so it's part of our project of, or our goal of updating our strategic plan. This is a natural fit in public safety to help drive ultimately what the strategic plan and strategic goals look like, and also provides the opportunity to provide you with anecdotal versus empirical information when it comes to making staffing decisions. I can sit here all day and tell you that we're lacking staffing and we need more people. This is a vehicle by which to show you statistically and real world information within our community as to why we need additional staffing or as to why we do not need additional staffing. And so this is a several month project. A couple weeks ago I sent out an email discussing the community survey that we have going on right now, and that's one step in this process of gathering information, gathering feedback from the community, putting it all together into this document. So as we go to the next slide, I think that is pretty much a synopsis of the CRASOC and pretty well the end of my presentation. I certainly stand for any questions that the council may have.
Mr. Rick?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could we go back to the second slide? One more. Okay, so looking at this slide, total calls for service 3788, fire calls 1516, emergency medical 2262. So roughly 65 to 70% of your calls are for ambulance service?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And I would also follow that up with, if you look at time on task analysis of what our crews are doing once the bells go off and they leave the station, time on task is closer to usually 90% EMS, between 80 to 90%.
Okay.
And so, yes, it is a much higher percentage for EMS than fire.
Okay, and can you go to the next slide? One more. One more, sorry. So you're asking for another fire truck. I'm trying to find it.
Yes, sir.
But I don't see a request for another.
I think it's on the next slide on the major initiatives.
Okay, there it is.
Design and spec.
Purchase new fire engine. Is this to replace one we have in service, or is this for Station 4?
It would essentially be for both. It would be for a fire engine to go to Station 4. The issue that we've run into is that we have a reserve engine that is only pressed into service when our frontline engines are down. That is a 2001 model Freightliner, and it's a 2001
It's past
model
its prime.
Freightliner. But I would also say that, on a very technical, on the technical side of it, it's also reaching the end of its NFPA recognized lifespan. NFPA recommends that after 25 years, fire engines are completely taken out of service, even out of reserve status. So it still functions when we need it to. It's got its problems, but essentially we would be able to eliminate that out of the fleet, and we would still have one engine to back up to be a reserve for our 4 frontline fire apparatus that would be at all 4 stations. So we would have one reserve to back up our 4 frontline.
Okay, but we're only going to have 3 ambulances.
That right now is the plan, that we would have 3 ambulances, and that decision is based on a number of factors, call volume being one of them. If we see an enormous increase in our call volume, we believe we can handle it. I mean, we would need to add another ambulance, but for what we have right now, we believe that the 3 ambulances are sufficient.
Okay, I just want to express the concern. We're 65 to 70% of our calls are for ambulance service, and we're not getting a 4th ambulance, but we're going to have 4 fire trucks out there. That's concerning to me, especially given Fire Station 3 and the fact that South Academy Highlands is covered, I believe, by Cimarron Hills.
Strathmore Hills.
Strathmore Hills.
Yes, sir.
For their fire service.
Correct.
But we are still responsible for South Academy Highlands for the ambulance service. So that's concerning to me.
Sure.
I just want to make sure we've explored all those options.
Sure. Yes, sir. And the one comment I would make to that is, I believe if we decided that it was strategically necessary to maintain one ambulance and one fire engine at each station, that could significantly change our staffing model and could require additional personnel.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, can you go back to the previous slide? One more. Okay. So Chief, kudos to you for 2023 to 2024 as far as promotions from 3 to 17. That's a big jump, and I think you have probably addressed that. Is that due to 2B is the reason why we've able to promote that many people?
Yes, sir. Particularly in 2024 with the 17, that was all but about 2 or 3 of those are specifically tied to the 2B initiative and the changes internally that we were able to make because of that 2B funding.
Sure thing. So I just want to express thank you to our public for
100%.
passing that initiative. And so these are the results from that, and your yes vote kind of proves that productivity that we're able to promote as many of those fine men and women in the fire department. So thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Duncan?
Okay, thank you, Chief, for the information. I want to know, what are we doing, the recruitment for the paramedics? Last year, we had 7, and this year we have 2. So is there a decrease in people wanting to be paramedics, or are you seeing that, or why would there be such a drop in the numbers?
I think a couple of things to address that. One, I think by and far recruiting paramedics has become more difficult. It's a very competitive job market right now, and that's as a result of there's a high burnout percentage amongst paramedics in EMS, and it's very competitive in this region, competing with departments south of us all the way up to the Denver South Metro area, and it's very competitive trying to compete with some of those organizations as far as recruiting paramedics. I would say as far as the drop-off between 23 and 24, that's proportional to the number of vacancies that we had and the number of paramedics that left versus the number that we needed to hire versus the number of full-time employees that we have budgeted. And so I don't think that this snapshot is representative of the competitive recruiting market for paramedics. I think it has more to do with the number of employees that we've had leave in the last 2 years versus previous years. That would be my response to that. Does that answer your question, ma'am? Yes. Okay.
Councilmember Hertzberg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, where are you, if you already said this, I missed it and apologize, but where are you at staffing now? So what do you need as far as staffing, or are you fully staffed?
We are currently short one position within the department, and that's based off of a resignation from just a couple of weeks ago. I think in the last meeting I told you we were fully staffed.
Okay,
And
so
there was
just
a resignation since then.
Okay, so just the one. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Fully staffed at that particular moment in time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way it seems to go, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
You had to say it, didn't you? Just so everybody in the audience and listening in can get over sticker shock, since you do have one new ambulance, a fire truck request on your future needs, what are those running nowadays, and how far in advance are we needing to order them?
If we ordered a fire truck right now, based on the needs of the district and the way we would spec that truck, I would expect it to be anywhere between $750,000 and $1 million. And based on the last time I had a conversation with a fire truck producer, anywhere from 24 to 36 months before we would see it. I'm not sure if some of those timelines have loosened up a little bit in the last few months, but I know departments that I've spoken to personally that were on a 36-month wait list for their truck. They were just still that backed up from the pandemic, supply chain issues, whatever the reasoning is. We're still log jammed a little bit.
Right.
Now, there could be it could be the potential for other options out there. I mean, I feel like we kind of hit a in the park home run, at least on the ladder truck, and it was used. It was a year old and had 10,000 miles, and it's turned out to be a good truck for us. So there is the potential that we could have a cost reduction and obviously time reduction if we elected to go there. Just kind of would have to see at the moment what was available on the market.
Right. I just think it's good to get it out there, what the costs are anticipated, you put medical or public safety behind anything, and I think the price just kind of goes up automatically.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah. All right. Any other questions, anybody? All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty. That takes us on to presentation from Flock Safety. Go ahead and remind everybody, please, what a flock is.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's
Yes.
not a bunch of birds that are
A
going to
flock
get
is
sucked
not
in the
a,
engine,
well, it is a bunch
right?
of birds, but not in this example.
All right.
Flock safety. So I've briefly spoken to, good evening to you all, first of all. We've spoken about this briefly a couple of times before I've brought it up. I've invited down some flock representatives to come and give you a real quick brief on the system. Basically what flock is, and I'm not going to steal their thunder, it's a license plate reading system / surveillance system that is basically cameras are put all over the city. What I want to highlight is we've had a success story through Cumberland Green, who has 3 flock cameras in their neighborhood. Their HOA has paid for those, and we've successfully captured 2 burglars. I call them burglars, but they're breaking into cars, stealing things, guns, et cetera, and we caught those 2 based off of the flock cameras system solely by itself. We reviewed the footage, captured the images, arrested the suspects. Another success story I'd like to read was from a detective who typed up an email, and I felt this is important for everybody to hear. It's from Detective Schmidt, who's part of our DICE team. He said, "Flock's been an amazing tool and asset during my time as a detective. While I was working in narcotics, I was able to utilize Flock to obtain a pattern of life by criminals and pin down where they were going to be at certain times. I was also allowed to assist Colorado Springs Police Motor Vehicle Theft Unit, which is better known as Battle. Flock was constantly and consistently used during these deployments to identify stolen vehicles and give current locations where the suspects were at live time. This was helpful for the apprehension of the individuals involved in stealing the vehicles, and we located surveillance video of a suspected vehicle during that crime. With the help of Flock, we were able to positively identify the vehicle and bring the suspect into custody. As I spoke about earlier, we had the shooting incident over on Grindy Drive. 4 weeks ago maybe, Flock was instrumental in capturing those suspects. They weren't our Flock cameras, because obviously we don't have them yet, but we utilized Colorado Springs Flock camera system. And we tapped into those cameras, which they've given us permission to do. We found our suspect vehicle and made an arrest of the suspect. I think it's vitally important that we start utilizing this system in our city. Colorado police agencies across the state are utilizing Flock, and very successfully, I might add. And in my opinion, we don't want to be the hole in the system that doesn't have the cameras. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jonathan over there, who's going to probably answer a lot of questions you all may have, and then we'll open it up for some stuff afterwards. Jonathan, sir.
Thank you so much, Chief. Talk about stealing thunder.
I don't think your mic is on. It should be right in the middle there.
Perfect. Can you guys hear me? Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Jonathan Paz. I'm part of the local government affairs team here at Flock. If you see me reach for the water, it's just I recovered from a cold a little while ago, but for some reason I'm still raspy. But Flock Safety, we were founded in 2017 with the mission of shaping a safer future together. We were actually founded when our CEO was a victim of a car break-in in his neighborhood, and at the time he thought, I have a doorbell camera. maybe that's enough to be able to provide some evidence to the police, and maybe they can, apprehend whoever's doing this thing across his neighborhood. And he went to he got some footage, his car got broken in again, took it to the local police department, and he said, this is not enough for us to apprehend the suspect. We actually need a license plate. So he did a little bit of research and found out that license plate reading technology, or what we call LPR technology, has been around for over 3 decades. The issue is that it's very expensive. So he came up with a prototype, actually at first using an iPhone, but a prototype to essentially make it more cost effective. And now we have an industry-leading technology that doesn't break the bank. And our mission is to continue providing a whole set of solutions to make sure that police have the right resources and technology to actually solve crime. So there is a real paradox. Well, before I go into that, we're now in over 5,000 communities, helping solve over 12% of crime nationwide. And we're trying to answer this policing paradox where, law enforcement is expected to do more with less. It's harder to recruit officers nowadays. There's certain perception issues, and violent crime rates haven't necessarily gone down since 2019. So our technology, we see this as an opportunity to be a force multiplier. This technology can actually make sure that you have the right evidence at the right point in time to solve a case. This is a whole suite of products that we have. And if you see me looking at, I'm just trying to be very timely and not run over. But yeah, our technology works very similarly. We detect, we decode, we deliver. We capture evidence, we decode it using machine learning technology, and we deliver it to your phone, to your laptop, to whoever's been authorized to use it in the system. So this is what we're talking about. It's a Falcon camera. We call it the Falcon. And it does 2 things. So pretend you're driving by one of these Falcon cameras. It will take a snapshot of the back of your car. It really takes a snapshot of 2 things. Number 1, the license plate, right? And number 2, the vehicular fingerprint. So the machine takes notice of the color, the make, is there a sticker on it, is there damage to the car? That type of thing is what we're able to assess. It's infrastructure free, it's solar powered, it's 24/7 coverage, and you're getting real-time alerts. Let's say if there's someone who has a felony warrant coming into your jurisdiction. Let's say that there's an Amber Alert that's been made or a Silver Alert. You will be able to track this person down and get proactive alerts in real time, but it's also an investigative tool. So if you're following up from a lead, you will be able to go into the system and say, hey, we're looking for X suspect. We know this about their car. We know the license plate, or maybe we don't know the license plate. You can enter into the system. You can see whenever there's been a hit in the system. And we do this technology thinking about ethics and thinking about privacy and balancing that reality between being able to effectively solve crime and protecting people's privacy. We don't own the data. You guys own the data, and it's deleted after 30 days. So this is what it looks like on a laptop. Let's say you get a custom hot list. You can see if there's a car with let's say a catalytic converter. I can never say that right. But this is what it would look like in the system. And I just want to really emphasize what this is really not. We are not facial recognition. We're not doing traffic enforcement. This doesn't actually capture personal identifiable information. This is just about cars. Again, I mentioned that the data is deleted after 30 days. What I really do want to emphasize here is this is about taking the bias out of investigations and getting objective data to solve these cases. And we're also talking about the Condor, so you get live video. A little bit different from the...
Hang on, does anybody have any question about that first part? Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, tell me if I need to slow down too. I told the chief I would be very brief. I like to keep a promise. This is what the Condor looks like. It's we call it a PTZ camera, pan tilt zoom. So you can actually remote tilt the camera, move around. Let's say you put this normally in an intersection or in a park. Let's say you have a big event and you know that maybe something will happen. Well, you can monitor that proactively, reactively if something did happen. You're able to monitor that system very well. It's really live video, and it provides situational awareness. So let's say if you do have to investigate a certain scene where it may not be safe, well, if you have one of these Condor cameras, you're able to assess the situation, what's happening on the ground, before you send someone out there, maybe in an unsafe situation, they can have a better game plan. So again, we take care of the software for you. We proactively maintain the system for you, so then you don't have blind spots, you don't have any gaps in your coverage, and you don't need IT. You don't need an IT department. We will help you on that on the back end and make sure that this system works smoothly. And my favorite part about this is that when you have a Condor with the Falcon camera, you can solve these cases a lot more effectively and have better evidence because it's paired with LPR. So again, these are all the features. I'm not going to repeat all of them, but you do have 25 times optical zoom, which I find to be very impressive. It's turnkey live and recorded video, essentially, again, deleted after 30 days. But it provides what we call state-of-the-art technology to make sure that you're able to keep a certain perimeter safe and have that real-time situational awareness. So again, not facial recognition, it's not unlimited continuous monitoring, it's really meant to be proactive or reactive to make sure we're solving crime. And yeah, we try to be a trusted partner. We do believe in accountability and having accountability mechanisms built into the system. So we do have, for any time you're going into the system and you're searching, you need to have a justification for it. And if you're going to take let's say a screenshot of a car, it needs to be it needs to have a case number. So we have an indefinitely available audit trail. So this is not meant to be something to be messed around with, and we protect this at the highest level. It's the data that's stored is end-to-end encrypted in an ASW cloud, which is the highest level comparable to where, like, let's say where the FBI would store its own data. So we really do believe in making sure that there is a accountability component to this where you do need justification, especially if you're sharing data across jurisdictions, and making sure that there is some transparency to this. So we provide as a service a transparency portal, something our competitors don't really do. But this is a real live example of Vallejo, California, where you can broadcast to the public, right? This is a tool in the toolbox. This is what it's being used for. This is not what it's being used for. You can publicize your policy behind it and make sure that folks in the public also know what is your return on investment. We have a variety of case studies here that I'm going to quickly run through, but this is a really important part of why we call this an ethically built technology, where we do provide that transparency and use. So we're in over 75 law enforcement agencies in Colorado, where the Condor has also been implemented in Glenwood Springs, Castle Rock, and Commerce City. And we've had some pretty remarkable success, long-term crime reduction in Hudson, Colorado, where the Hudson police chief shared that in 2022, they recorded a 1,050% increase in stolen vehicles recovered, compared to in 2021, where it was a 50% decrease reported of stolen vehicles. So, by the numbers, you see that return on investment where you're able to actually address these things and build trust in the community. I wanted to talk a little bit about identity case solved out of Salida, Colorado, where detectives were informed that a suspect accused of stealing credit cards and vehicles around Denver was in town. They only had a photograph of the suspect. They canvassed the local area, got information from local businesses, and were able to obtain a partial plate number. So not an entire plate. And they used that information, put it into their system. The LPR technology was able to identify that they were driving a rented vehicle, and they identified the suspect, who was a habitual offender, and arrested them. And I really want to emphasize this quote here. Flock's information was more credible than the Crime Stoppers tips authorities received, as well as all were determined to be incorrect information. So talk about a needle in a haystack. LPR was really able to make sure that they were able to sort through the data, as imperfect as it was. And I can go on and on. I did want to just mention this quick example coming out of Florida, but this is about the Condor cameras keeping a park safe. In mid-May, officers used their Condor PTZ cameras to identify multiple suspects accused of burglarizing several boats at a nearby marina. Later that month, officers used the cameras to observe and arrest over 20 suspects accused of involvement in narcotic-related crimes during a week-long operation. So they paired PTZ cameras with LPR, and we were able to get the job done, at least making sure that was addressed. And I don't like to end, I can go on and on with some of these slides, but I really like to end on our first Amber Alert that we solved out of Georgia, because we were founded in Georgia, where a mom was literally walking down the street with her baby on a stroller. A white van pulls up, literally two strangers commit a stranger-on-stranger abduction, which is very rare. They literally rip her kids out of her hands, take the kid. She knew enough about the vehicle that it was red and it had a damaged back wheel. She reported this to the police. An Amber Alert was issued at 12:33 p.m. The lieutenant at the time actually who went into the system was actually on vacation going to Disney, but he went out of his way, searched through the system, and he knew just that information alone. It was like a red Honda with like an issue with the back plate of the back of the vehicle, and they were able to identify the suspect at 2:30. And actually, the suspects were really on their way to go out of state. So they went through multiple jurisdictions that had flock, thankfully. And they made the arrest at 5 o'clock. And then by 6 p.m., the baby was reunited with her mom. And I share this because it just shows the importance of the strength of being a part of a regional network. And you will be a part of a regional network in the state of Colorado where you would actually, because crime is regional. It's not just one city. It comes in and out. And you will be able to address situations like these in real time and hopefully maybe bring a smile to someone's face. So happy to answer any questions. I think I went over my time. Thank you.
Councilmember Rick and then Councilmember Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I already know the answer, but I want to just double check. You said the data gets deleted after 30 days. Let's say the police identify somebody. Are you able to extract what we need and keep that, give it to the attorney for longer than 30 days so that they can prosecute an individual?
Yeah, so great question. So if it's within the 30 days, they can go into the system, pull the data, and put it into their case file. At that point, that's part of an investigation. But if it's, let's say, someone who just literally drives down the street, doesn't commit anything, that data will be deleted in 30 days.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Duncan?
Okay, that was basically some of the question I was going to ask. So you said that this was it was hard deleted. So what do you mean by that?
It means that if it's hard deleted, it means we can't go into the system and retrieve it, let's say, even if it could help an investigation, as much as we would like to help you, contractually, we're obligated to delete that. And that's part of the contract that you would be signing, is that we are contractually obligated to delete the data, because it's yours. It's not ours to keep.
Okay, so just piggybacking, so there's a wreck, and this information is owned by the city, but what if I'm the person in the wreck and I want the information? There's some people say, well, you hit me, no, you hit me. So how can I get that information, or is that available?
Assuming you're a private citizen, right? It would be part of a police investigation. They can go into the system and be able to ascertain what exactly happened. Let's say if it's a real live camera, that would be a lot more useful, but with LPR, we would be able to tell you this is where this happened. I'm not sure we would be able to particularly solve, you said a wreck or an accident?
I was just using it as an example, but mostly I was saying, can a citizen request this information and my next part of that question was like, does this pertain to a Cora request or something like that?
I think Chief has got his light on to answer that.
Yeah, I actually didn't turn it off, but I do have an answer for part one.
Okay.
We would treat that as body-worn camera also. Anything we capture on our body-worn camera is also deleted after X amount of days. But if there's something that we consider evidence, and if we saw a traffic crash on the pan-tilt zoom camera wherever we placed it, and that was evidence in the accident, we would retrieve that, we would store it, and it would be available for copying to the citizen. So that it would be treated just like body-worn camera for us. But after 30 days, it will be gone. We wouldn't be able to get it. Before 30 days, if you come in a week after your traffic crash and say, hey, I want that video, and we say, oh, we do have video of that, we'll get it for you. It's a minimal cost, and here you go. That's how that would work.
Okay.
I don't know about Cora. That's above my pay grade.
Okay, so I just wanted to know how that went. And so It's live data for viewing. Is it live data for viewing? You can't go into Google like you do Google Live and just see this information. This information is just for the city.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that because there are people saying, well, I don't want people watching me everywhere I go. So you can't do it on Google because that was one of the problems when Cumberland Green came out with this. People were saying that they were being watched. So just to reiterate, you cannot go on this system and watch your neighbors.
No, and Councilwoman Duncan, the only people that are going to go into this system are the police. We are not going to proactively go in and watch who's going to whose neighborhood party. We are going to be reactive to, hey, there's burglaries going on at Cumberland Green, let's go back and watch the footage. Or, hey, there's a major traffic snarl at Fountain Mesa and Mesa Ridge, let's look at the pan-tilt zoo camera and see if there actually is traffic problems. Oh, there is, let's send an officer out there. That's how that's going to work. No proactive looking at these cameras by anybody.
Councilmember Hinton?
We can probably guess the theme of the question, because we have a lot of citizens that, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy theory, Big Brother, who's checking the checker? And I think that you and Chief really explained kind of how that breaks down, just for our citizens to know that there's no unhidden agenda here, right? We're really just trying to protect our citizens with these cameras, and it's not used for personal use, it's used to prevent crime. So I really appreciate your brief tonight, and thank you, Chief, too, as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else, council? All right, I pointed out to count in one of the slides, don't ask me which one, it says fireworks. It says they'll be able to do fireworks. I think it was one of the slides with the very first capability of the first one, the Falcon camera or whatever. Is that true?
Maybe it was from a different. We do have a device that is able to differentiate between gunshots and fireworks. It's a different one, so maybe that got through.
I think keep going back.
Yeah, so this is about back
Go
of.
back. I think it went.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, so that's pertinent to the Raven device there. Wink, wink. It's a great device, and it can really differentiate between gunshots and fireworks. Where actually in California they use it to actually figure out if fireworks are being used to prevent forest fires. But that's what that would entail.
So that's
Go ahead.
a different system then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which you can totally integrate to this system, which would be amazing.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't want to have somebody see the slide and all of a sudden they think, oh, look, they're going to be taking pictures of me doing fireworks and, or they're going to run out and give tickets. And let's make sure we explain that real well. If
Yeah,
we go
good
with the
catch. I
system.
actually reviewed this slideshow presentation. I didn't even pick up on fireworks. I zipped right by it. So
Okay.
good catch, Mayor.
Okay,
So-
and then I do have one more question. It said the Falcon something about it doesn't do indiscriminate evidence. What does that mean, indiscriminate evidence?
So I think, is it referring to this slide?
Yes.
So through machine learning technology, we can ascertain like this car specifically, right, out of mountains of information. It can but when we say indiscriminate, it's taking the human bias out of investigations. So rather than saying it's one person walking down the street or it was this car, you can actually ascertain through actual data, objective evidence, to localize whatever suspect or lead they may have. Does that answer the question?
Sort of. Okay. Did you have one more?
Yeah. What is the cost range?
So Chief, should I punt this to you or? So
Councilman asked, we'll talk about it.
I want to know. I'm sure citizens want to know.
absolutely. So $3,000 per camera. It's a subscription-based service, so I think it's 25 cameras, and then it's a Condor, 3 Condor cameras. And I think it's a 2-year subscription. So when we say subscription, it means that we will go out of our way to maintain these devices, the software, and make sure that it's good.
That including the price, or is that a subscription you pay every month?
It's built into the subscription.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Councilman Hinton, I'll just, we're going to talk about this at budget, but I'm a transparent police chief, so
Sure.
our system that we're talking about is approximately 27 to 28 cameras, and we're looking at $80,000 a year.
Okay,
$160,000 for the 2-year contract is what we're going to be looking at.
okay,
Modifiable, of course, but that's the baseline where we're at.
for sure. I mean, we gotta be transparent. I mean, it's a great system, but we understand it comes with a cost. And
Yes,
I
sir.
want everybody to understand that it does come with a cost, and I wanna make sure that that number is out there, right?
I appreciate that, council member.
Councilmember Rick?
Yes, Chief. Who has access in your department to the system? And specifically, I'm asking, is the officer out on patrol, can they just anytime access the system, or it's got to go through a sergeant, a lieutenant, whatever?
No, the way the system is going to be set up for Fountain, if we go to this, any police car that is signed on to the mobile digital terminal, the MDT in their car, if a car comes into our jurisdiction that is stolen, every car that's signed on will receive that notification. So that officer will have live action to that system. Now, officers in the station doing paperwork, hear a call come out and they want to go to the pan tilt zoom camera and access that remotely, every police officer will have access to that. But that'll be it. It'll be sworn police officers.
Okay, and we'll have a record of who accessed what?
Yes, sir. They provide a very strict audit trail, very similar to our body-worn cameras through Axon. Nobody can go into that system without knowing they went into it. And we provide the access and we deny the access. So we can say what officers, if it's abused in any way, obviously that officer is disciplined and that person's removed from the system. So it's all just like this. Only certain people can go in and look at body-worn camera images, and only certain people can go in and look at flock camera images.
Okay, thank you.
And we provide training, additional training and support.
Councilmember Hinton and then Councilmember Duncan?
So you said earlier, and this is probably along the lines of the same question you were just talking about. So anyone that goes in there has to have a case number assigned to it? Is that what I heard when in your brief? There has to be a case number?
Yes, Councilman. We have several databases where we're not allowed to access them unless we can put in a case number to reference to.
Okay.
Along with my badge number, anybody's identifying number has to be put in there. That's probably most of the systems we use across the board for law enforcement. You can't get into these things without telling you why and who you are.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Councilmember Duncan?
So I went to an event earlier today, and it was stated that a lot of 17-year-olds are still in cars. And, just wanted to know if this was anything having to do with the insurance of citizens. We couldn't claim this on our insurance and say we have this in Fountain, we get cheaper insurance, right?
I'm sure someone out there can negotiate maybe on behalf of the city. But no, that's really one of our bread and butter things is being able to retrieve stolen vehicles. It's an unfortunate issue, but that's something that we're able to help address.
This question is for Chief. You said 28 cameras, I think you said?
Yes, ma'am.
And where would you anticipate? I think we probably have a bit more than 28 intersections in town, so where
We
would
do.
you-
So the map's already plotted out. Eric and Jonathan and their whole team have already provided us the mapping where the most effective, basically it's entry and exit points for the city. So you wouldn't be able to come into the city and not leave the city without a flock camera picking you up. They're not meant to monitor every intersection. They're really meant to capture stolen vehicles coming into the city, dispatch officers, and then follow the car as it's moving along the different systems. So you certainly don't need a camera at every intersection, but you do need a camera at places going in and places going out.
And the reason that we're really focusing on the stolen cars is because, remind me of the percentage of stolen vehicles that are used in crime is, they're
Mayor,
not just, they're just not joyriding anymore.
No, no, I don't know a percentage, but I can tell you the live example is Julian Becerra. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but it's very high.
Yep,
I mean, when you
very
see all
high.
those smash and grabs in Colorado Springs, it's always they've stolen a car to smash through
The stolen car is not for the joyride. The stolen car is to facilitate another crime.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And then you said only sworn PD. Officers cannot delete info?
No, we are unable to delete info from body-worn cameras. We are unable to delete info on any flock, especially flock. I mean, we control these on, off or not, we don't control those.
Right.
No. The quick answer is no, we cannot delete anything.
Troy, what are your concerns, your thoughts, since you're the lawyer sitting over there?
Yeah, I think we're living in a new world with the technology, and so I've not heard of any legal challenges to this. I think, you know, as drivers, we consent to a lot when we drive on the roads, and you know, there's not a high level of privacy protections when we drive on the roads.
Could you lean a little bit into that? Okay.
Yeah, we as drivers, we consent to a lot by the privilege of being able to drive on the roads. And so they're public, there's not a huge expectation of privacy when you're driving on the roads. And so, you know, the technology seems to be catching up with the how we enforce it. And so, no, I don't see any problems. I think with you know, the problems would be the ethics around the retention of the data. And so it seems like the programs and the institutional things put in place that the software seems to have would alleviate a lot of my concerns. You know, that it's really that slide on the very right there, that the things that they're not doing would have been my concerns, and I certainly sounds like they've addressed those things that I would have otherwise had a concern about.
Thank you.
And you know, Mayor, we have policies already drafted. I'm not gonna lie, I called my cousin police chief in California and said, send me your flock policy, and he sent it to me, and I'm just gonna plagiarize it. You know, why reinvent the wheel?
Let the other people
Plagiarize
do
may
the
be a
work,
bad
right?
word. Why reinvent the wheel?
I'm sure
It's a
theirs has
very-
been tested through courts already and all
Yeah,
that
he
stuff.
has. Yeah, Piedmont, California. He's got 90 cameras, and it's gonna create a lot of work for our police officers, but it's good work.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're gonna need like another tech person to like withdraw things and save it and tag it and all that kind of.
Nah, we should be all right. We
They-
should be good with that.
Yeah, they do, yeah, but I mean, we have to tell them where it's at and all that.
Yep.
Okay. Councilmember Hertzberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Just an observation, as I read about, you know, crime reports or whatnot in the news, I'm shocked at how often they're resolved with license plates. That officers are just, you know, driving through a Walmart and they snag something and they're making arrests. So it's incredible, and I think it's the nature of how crime is, and I'm glad that we got some tools available that can maybe help law enforcement get a little bit ahead of the game.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how crime was solved 20, 30 years ago. They managed to do it, but yeah, now is the age of this, and we're gonna utilize it if possible.
Since we're on the slide where it says no people, no faces, no facial recognition, right? When you used the example of one of the cities, you said that a car went in their city and they had a photo of this person and they went around trying to find him. I'm assuming that photo would be provided from a previous booking photo, another reason that
Yeah.
they were able to access a photo, not from this system.
No, and
Okay.
our system specifically does not track people. It's not the search, a part of our search engine doesn't do any of that with people.
Okay. All right, any questions from any other council members? Well, obviously, we're very interested in this because we asked a lot of questions and wanted a lot of information. And thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. And Chief, if we have any other questions, we'll send them your way. And
Perfect.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you so much.
Jonathan.
Thank you. All right. Hinkle and Company presentation of the 2023 financial statements. Mr. Hinkle, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
Good. If you want to go over to that one, you have a little bit bigger podium to
Oh, all right.
To spread out on.
Space, but
Yeah,
Wherever works great, the camera is.
yes. Yeah, we want to make sure we get that full facial recognition. No, I'm kidding. All right.
Careful
And,
where I drive out of here.
yeah, that's right. Turn on the middle button for me, please. Thank you. All right, if you could introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. My name is Jim Hinkle with Hinkle and Company CPAs, and we did perform the annual audit of the financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2023. Yep. We start off our audit by updating our understanding of the city's accounting internal controls. We look at the payroll cycle, the disbursement cycle, the cash receipt cycle. We look for segregation of duties. Each accounting transaction typically takes 3 steps: the initiation, the approval, and the recording of those transactions. and we want to make sure that there is more than one person involved in those three processes for each individual transaction cycle, the payroll, the disbursements, the cash receipts. We do this for a couple of reasons. One is that we are assessing the audit risk associated with the financial statements. The other is to look if there are any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the internal control structure. A significant deficiency is defined as a design flaw in the system of internal controls that would allow an error to go undetected in the ordinary course of business. And a material weakness would be a significant deficiency that might result in a material misstatement to the annual financial statements. Once we document those internal controls, we then test them by taking a sample of disbursements and payroll transactions and walking those through the cycle and ensuring that the control features like approval of the invoice before payment, proper account coding, and those types of things are operating as intended. As we continue throughout the entire audit, we also verify those control features as we do other audit procedures throughout our engagement. The end result of this is that we did not notice any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the internal control structure. That's the answer that you want to hear. So the internal controls are adequate and they are operating as intended. We then turn our attention to the actual audit of the financial statements, and we mostly use testive details where we look into an account balance and we look at the underlying transactions and we compare those transactions to source documents such as invoices, cash receipts, contracts, agreements, to ensure that those transactions are being recorded and reflected in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. We also utilize what we call analytic review, where we compare this year's revenues and expenses to last year's, this year's to budget numbers, relationships between the balance sheet and the income statement. And we're looking for relationships that we either don't expect or can't explain. And if we find any of those, we do more tested details in those areas. The end result of that is our audit opinion on the financial statements. And that opinion is what we call an unmodified opinion. In layman's terms, that's a clean opinion. States that the financial statements have been prepared in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. And that's also the answer that you want to hear. So all in all, we have good reports. We did not find any significant problems throughout the audit. At the end of the audit, we did issue a required communication letter where we're required to communicate in writing if certain events occur. We did not have anything negative to report in that letter. We did not have any difficulties in the course of the audit. We did not have any disagreements with management. And we did not have any corrected or uncorrected adjustments. Those would be areas that we found that the books and records were incorrect and required audit adjustments to be in accordance with general accepted accounting principles, and we did not have any of those either. So, clean, good audit. It was submitted to the state auditor's office on time, so that was good as well. Probably the most important thing that I like to communicate to those charged with governance, you all, is that throughout the audit process, we felt like we had open transparency. Everything that we asked for, we received in a timely fashion. We were never denied access to any information. And so we as auditors felt like we were able to ask for and receive whatever information we felt necessary to be able to complete an independent audit. So I think that's very important for everyone to hear. Finally, I would like to thank Shonda and all of her team. We are, in addition to their daily jobs, we ask for a lot of information, a lot of schedules, a lot of source documents, and the ability to hit the deadlines that the state auditor's office has. We're required to have that information flow come timely and regularly. And we were able to receive that, and they made to make that a priority to get this annual financial report put together and filed on time. So thank her and her team for all of their efforts that they put forth in assisting us through this process. All in all, it was a good audit, and you are finished for 2023, and we're looking forward to 2024. Are there any questions?
Oh, as long as you said everything was fine in a clean audit, I think we're happy. Any questions from anybody up here? Councilmember Hertzberg.
Not a question, just a big thank you to Shauna. Great job.
And congratulations on surviving your first one that you're in charge of,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam
Not that you
Mayor.
haven't done
And
them.
I
Yes,
would just like to
congrats.
say thank you to Jim and his staff as well, because they've been a great partner and very easy to work with. So he's got a great team, and they're always there with questions, and when we need help, they're there to help us as well. So we appreciate the partnership with them.
Yeah, I walk through the office and somebody says the auditors are here, and I'm like, I have to do something at home. So I just, stay out of your way and stay out of his way when that's going on. So thank you very much, and thank you for the short, concise report. Appreciate that. I got one from another company on another board, and the guy took about 15, 20 minutes to get to the clean part, and we're all just sitting there on pins and needles thinking that he wasn't going to get there, so.
I
thank you.
understand. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. That was painless, huh? All right. That takes us to 4.2, Board, Commission, and Committee appointments. There are none this week. Item 5, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Mr. Drainer?
Nothing for me, Madam Mayor.
Nothing from you. Nothing from you. He has nothing to share. After you've blown up our phone for the last 10 days, you have nothing to share. Okay. All right. Nothing yet, huh? Ah, man. Don't blow our phones up anymore because we all know nothing. Okay. Mr. Evans. Troy? All right. Chief or chief? Y'all took up all your time already tonight, huh?
Two real quick things.
Oh.
We did a corporal promotion. Corporal Craig Morris from the School Resource Officers was promoted on Monday. We're very proud of that. We have conducted some interviews of new police officer candidates, and we've got about 4 or 5 going through backgrounds, so we're happy about that as well. And I'll be attending the 9/11 ceremony at Memorial Park with Police Chief Vasquez and Fire Chief Royal with Colorado Springs. I'll be doing that tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you very much.
I will be there also. We moved our PPACG meeting till beginning at 11:30 due to that event going on and so many people attending it. So, yep. All right, Shauna?
The only thing I have, Madam, is that we're hard at work on putting together the budget book for the 25-26 budget, and then 2 weeks from tonight will be our first work session with City Council for the 25-26 biannual budget. So we'll do those on the 24th and 25th of September, with a potential third one on October 1st, and that's all I've got.
Okay. What we'll do at our next council meeting is hopefully have a very short agenda, do a regular council meeting, dismiss for a few minutes, and then we will rearrange the tables and go down to a work session format on the floor. So that's what we'll do. All right, Joni?
I have nothing, thank you.
IT? Oh, he's drooling over the flock camera technology over there. I could see it. Yeah, he was getting, that was right up your alley, right? All right. Okay. All righty, Councilmember Rick.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Applegate.
Community Night in the Park, September 17th, Tuesday, 4 to 7, Metcalf Park. Come out and see the city services, get a light bulb from the electric department and what the hot dogs from the fire department. So hope to see you all there.
Bring your kids to climb on stuff, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Councilmember Estes.
I just want to join with the mayor in remembering that tomorrow is 9/11, and I happen to be one of those folks working in the blood bank and had to deal with that line around the block of donors coming in. Kept me busy the rest of the night because everything else was pretty quiet. We just dealt with donors. And so just take the time to remember, I had classmates that died in that, in New York and in Washington, D.C., and just take the time to remember everything that's important in this country.
Donating blood is still needed, so not a bad thing to do
Donate
tomorrow.
blood.
All right. Councilmember Hinton.
Nothing to add.
Councilmember Hertzberg.
Nothing, Madam.
Councilmember Duncan.
Well, today is Suicide Prevention Day, and we're also coming upon 9/11, and just to let everyone know that you're not alone when we talk about and remembering those days. One of the things that I remember the most about that day, I was traveling and didn't know what was going on. I could feel something strange in the air, but I didn't know what was going on. And I stopped to get gas, and couldn't get any money and didn't know why. And so the guy looked at me and he says, "You don't know what happened?" And I said, "I don't." Because, that was the time when there was no Sirius XM and all that. So, and I was traveling and there was no radio. So I didn't know what was going on. So I was really caught off, as everyone, because I did not have any money to get gas, but I had a few dollars to get to a hotel to stay in, and didn't, just sitting there watching what was going on and heartbroken at what was happening to our country and to the people that was there protecting us. It was just very heartbreaking. So just want you to know that we're all suffering from what happened that day. So if you have any needs that you would like to talk to anyone about, there is a hotline, and that number is 1-844-493-8255, and anyone having any problems that they need to talk to someone. Also, this is Military Appreciation Week at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. If you show your military ID, you can get into the zoo at no charge. Going through my notes. So yesterday I was present at the opening of the free grocery store to support Widefield students and their families. And it is located right next to the Security Public Library. It's at 715 Aspen Drive. It's sponsored by Colorado Community Health Alliance. And what they do is they identify 200 families a month, and they give them access to nutritious foods, which I thought was awesome. Also, I will be attending the event tomorrow at Memorial Park, so I hope to see many people there. I also attended the annexation of the Colorado Springs panel, and they had a timeline of events that were that had Fountain involved. It had the city of Fountain, so it always has my radar up. So I learned a lot at this event, and it was informative. It was very helpful. It was the first of a many of series, and I would encourage anyone in Fountain to pay attention to those. They have information, it says Colorado Springs, but they had information about Fountain, and they had the slides talking about the annexation and where Fountain was involved in. And it was all over the board. It had to do with water, housing. It was lots of data. And they are having more series to come. Let's see what else. And I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Just wanted to let you know I spoke to Mayor Mobilotti this morning after he gave his speech, and he is talking about increasing their services to homelesses in Colorado Springs, and I reached out to him and said, we're going to need to work together on this issue because, if you have a crackdown in one community, they just move around to another community, and so he was really open to having a conversation with a regional approach to that. So I said we would be willing to be at the table for that conversation. And I attended the Highway 115 CDOT ribbon cutting ceremony. If you have not driven Highway 115 recently, with all the construction going on there, it's 4 lanes, a lot of the ways, not the complete way, and then the bridges have been redone, and so it's a lot safer. There's turning lanes, there's left turn lane, right turn lane, acceleration, deceleration lanes, so hopefully we've had a lot of very tragic incidents on Highway 115, and hopefully that will reduce that. So, all right, thank you. Does anybody need to take a break before we go to public to be heard? Okay, all right, we'll keep going. All right, that takes us to public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of the respect for council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. And the first card I have is from Javinia Downs. So come on down. You want to talk about Fountain Valley Cares. think I said your name right.
Pretty close, Javinia.
Okay.
Javinia, like Virginia, but twisted.
Okay. All right.
I'm Javinia Downs, President of Fountain Valley Cares. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I wanted to let you know a little bit about FV Cares, what we do as well as our goals. And FV Cares stands for Fountain Valley Child Care Association for Resources, Education, and Support. It's a long, a long name, so we just reduce it. Our main goal is to assist more people in becoming licensed family child care providers, primarily in the Fountain Valley area, since we are a child care desert. As far as I know, we only have 8 licensed family child care homes and 1 small center here in Fountain, which truly isn't enough for a population of 30,000. Around 30,000. To me, this means that people are using unlicensed care or taking their children to other areas, maybe closer to their work. We assist people in licensing process. We also assist in providing materials for licensed providers to start their businesses. We have a fully functioning lending library that is everything from cots, tables, chairs, puzzles, books, manipulatives, outside toys, and many other items. For every $1,000 that they borrow, we only charge $25, which we believe is a very minimal cost for the amount that they get. This helps alleviate that startup cost for their business. Fountain Valley Cares is starting a babysitters club for youth ages 13 to 20, and our kickoff event for the club will be on the 28th of this month at the Salvation Army in Widefield from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We will have door prizes and food, as well as getting them to choose their own logo, rename it if they want to. We received a grant that will allow us to give free CPR first aid classes to these young members. And of course, membership is free. Our goal is to have trainings and events monthly, mentor them, and give our youth ideas on activities and crafts to do with the children they are caring for instead of just using screen time. We want to keep children safe in the best way we know how. Since we are already caring for our youngest children, we wanted to have somewhere our youth and teens could go to get positive mentoring, educational knowledge, and socialize in a safe environment. Thank you for your time. I would love to leave you a flyer, maybe a business card. And if you have any questions, you can contact me or go through our website, Fountain Valley Cares.
Okay.
That's it for
Are
me.
you a nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay, so Joni has if you can bring her flyers by the office, we have a little thing she can look at them and put them out for the community to have downstairs in case somebody comes in. And then also Todd, I know your department gets a lot of questions for people how to do it, and so if he could be sending people needing licensing to you guys, because the state took that away from the cities, so that would be fantastic.
Okay.
So thank you very much. Councilmember Duncan?
Thank you for your presentation. So you mentioned that this was at the Salvation Army. Was this the program that was being held, that was giving out the cards, like to Walmart or Safeway? Was this the same program?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think that's the same one.
You would need to come, wait,
CTC?
you need to, ma'am, you need to come down here and speak, please. All right, and state your name for the record.
That was the CTC.
Hi, I'm Carol Rafferty. So yes, it's all based on the CTC. So the CTC had a grant and they had several different strategy teams. One of those strategy teams was talking about the daycare desert. And FV Cares, so Fountain Valley Cares, was created from it. So it's all community members. It's childcare providers as well as other community members that started it. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that it's coming back.
Yeah, so it started from there, but we have since branched off, and CTC's child care strategy team is still in effect, and we're trying to figure out more opportunities that we can help with. So different from FV Cares.
I think that's been part of the problem with those couple of programs is they cross and
We intermingle.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming down and sharing that with us, and get some flyers to Joni and. Well, that's fine. Just you can drop some by another day. You live close, so. All right. I had a card for Mr. Linder, but he decided to go ahead and leave tonight, and so I'm sure he'll come back another evening. And so the next card is Audrey Beckett, and you wanted to speak about something with the planning department.
Yes.
As you know, we're building the gateway.
Your mic is center button.
Central
There you
Bank.
go.
Okay.
Thank you. And if you could state
I'm-
your name for the record.
I'm Audrey Beckett, and I'm building the Gateway Prayer Garden along I-25. And as you know, I think one of the biggest issues in the city of Fountain is you don't have another planner. You have one planner, you're looking for more planners. I think this is the most important issue in the city, because unless you deal with it, you might go into a time, like I've heard might happen in October, where you say, oh, we're not going to take any more new applications for buildings or for other development. This would be tragic. Your city is a city that believes in growth, has done a great job with growth. We need growth. And so to me, the most important thing right now is finding another planner, maybe two, to catch up with the backlog that's there. And whatever it takes, if you have to hire a headhunter to find them and pay a headhunter, if you have to hire two headhunters, if you have to go out to different, I know that Todd is looking very hard, but I think it's going to take every one of you. You know people in different cities. Maybe we can get people in that can do it nights and that are in Colorado Springs, they'd be willing to be a consultant or willing to do part-time on weekends or nights. But you've got to get another planner. And I just can't stress enough. Todd's doing everything he can. Christy's doing everything she can. And I've been in a backlog for 14 months. They've had one review for me. We got it back in a month. But then, of course, it goes to the bottom of the stack. And there's 54 projects in that stack. There's no way one person can do it. And so you're making a decision by not everybody, whatever it takes, needs to be part of finding somebody. Because otherwise, you're going to have people, you're just going to put everything on and put a hold on it. And that's not what any of you want. You've got good businesses coming in, you've got good home builders coming in, you've got good development coming in, and you've got to cure this backlog, and you can't do it with one person. And Todd can't do it alone, I don't believe. I mean, I'm really appealing to you and begging you to put whatever effort, energy you have to put behind this and get one hired or two.
Pause the clock, please, Joni. Thank you. I don't want to take up part of your 5 minutes.
Oh, that's all I
You
had.
said everything that we're pretty much doing, and all of us are putting the word out whenever we go to meetings, when we go to places. I mean, I was up at Colorado Municipal League, I'm like, got a planner, you'll take your planner, who wants to, we're like, but it's everywhere in the state. And part of, it's in the entire country. No one is just going into this. And we do have headhunters working on it. But I want to address one statement you made.
Okay.
You made a statement that made it sound like we had decided to stop taking applications, and this council has not had that discussion at all. That
Oh,
is not
good.
something that's been just out here and that would be a major discussion.
Yeah.
So you would be hearing of it, so I just want to correct that before it gets
Thank
picked up
you.
on Facebook or the news or something, that has not been decided or discussed at all within this entire council. So I just wanted to correct that. So if you have something else to say, but I just, Scott had his mic on, so I don't want, if you have something else to say, though, don't want to cut you off, so.
No, I appreciate that very much. There's got to be planners, you guys. You've got to be able to get people that will work part-time or that will work on their own time or that will do something. It's not an impossible situation.
The trouble is, when we find people, we have one person that in the past 2 weeks got 15 job offers to hire this person away. Because there's companies that can pay a lot more, there's cities that can pay a lot more. We get somebody down here for a job and they say, that's a really good interview, thanks for going through that, but I can make an additional $40,000 somewhere else. And that's just reality. So there are some out there. We have to find the ones that are willing to come in here and put the time and the talent into our city and develop their career from here. So we do have a headhunter working on it. I even met with a state representative this last week, trying to see if we can put a bill together to maybe attract some people, see if they're interested in running that bill. So we're going to go that angle. That's long-term, but
Right.
you got to start somewhere, right? And I think probably just about everybody's, been up here trying to understand what it is and what they need it. But Mr. Trainer?
I was just going to add, so you hit on a couple things I wanted to hit on, but Audrey, I couldn't agree with you more. We talk about this almost daily.
Okay, good.
And there's two issues really. And one of the things we want to do, and we're going to come back and have a workshop with our council, and I'd invite you to come to that because you may have some thoughts. But in addition, we're contracting right now, because that's really important, so we can get some other entities that have more bodies who are helping us out. So that's able to help us out quite a bit.
Great.
And we actually, we've made multiple job offers. We're hoping we have someone right now on the hook that may be interested in coming. But I think that there's a people side of things, right? And that's really important. That's what you're talking about. That's something that we talk about constantly. And then there's the process side of things.
Yes.
And so that's the other thing that we're going to talk about in a workshop about, hey, look, what do we need to look at on our processes? Are there some things we can do to streamline that?
Yes.
Is there technological aspects that we need to explore that maybe you're being used in other communities that might simplify some of these steps? So it's a whole bunch of things, but yeah, we couldn't agree more. I think we're 100% on the same page.
Well, I would love to be at that meeting, both on process and on the other part. Thank you very much.
And if you have any water you want to sell, let us know. That's the other big thing around here, right? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in. John, you're hiding back there. I didn't see you. Okay, all right. And American Legion.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you for letting me come up here again. First thing I'd like to say is we need to have a hydraulic one, so when I push on the button, I can pull up and stuff, because coming down like here.
We actually moved it for you because we figured out where it was at, people's heads were getting cut off if they were tall, so we moved it for you, so.
All right, so I just wanted to let y'all know, thanks for letting us lead the parade for the Fountain Parade last 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago it was. It was very nice that our bikes were not overheating and pinging because we were sitting behind horses and bands that were taking forever to get through the parade. But thank you for that. Okay, so what do we have going on at the American Legion? Right now, our auxiliary is in the midst of a coat drive where they're doing new coats for children, and then they're also taking gently used coats for the homeless and for older people. This Friday coming up, we have the auxiliary dinner, although it's not September 11. They are offering first responders and active duty to have two reduced prices, so they'll be $10 instead of $15 at the chicken fried chicken dinner, and that usually happens to be one of our bigger sellers during the month. On the September the 20th, we're doing a fish fry with French fries and coleslaw. And then on the 27th, we will be having our steak night with baked potato and salad. I also want to remind everybody that the American Legion is having a golf tournament up at the Country Club of Colorado on September the 30th. And everything will kick off around 9 o'clock and we'll start smashing balls around 10. I just wanted to let y'all know that there was a local family that was their grandson was able to get into a traveling basketball league, and they just couldn't afford it. So between the American Legion Auxiliary, the Sons of the American Legion, and the Special Forces Association, they were able to donate $1,500 so that young kid could be on the traveling team. I forgot to say our auxiliary was out at the parade handing out flags. And I believe that is it for this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
John, a quick info for you. The Fountain Creek Watershed District is getting close with their creek project over by you guys. So I'd like to talk to you about possibly having that community meeting before they start that project down at your shop for both your any of your folks as well as anybody we have come down to learn about that project?
Yeah, I figured we were probably with between 3 and 4 years before we ever see that road opening up by now.
That's still close, yeah. Would you be good with doing that?
I would be glad to, because my
Great.
members would really like to know when is that road going to ever open up again, because that decreased our volume of business that travels there, because coming out of Walmart, they can't get to us anymore.
I'll get with you and I'll coordinate that with the watershed district and you guys.
Thank you, Todd.
Great, you bet.
All right. And if any of your members have questions on the construction project going on 85 there at Carson, tevans@fountaincolorado.org, okay? All right.
Well, we did pretty good when we went out to the meeting, and then we gave out leaflets at the post about what's going on there. I don't think that's going to affect us too much. The only thing that I would like to be able to do is maybe put a sign that said the American Legion is down this way. We are kind of out of the way, and if you don't know to go back there on that back road, I didn't even know there was a Legion. We get that all the time.
Yeah.
And so I've been asking about signs, and
tevans@fountaincolorado.org.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
85, then you got to talk to state.
Yeah, all right. He can go over the sign code with you. All right, thank you. All righty, Bobby from VFW.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Okay, I need the lower station, obviously. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Let's see, the VFW Auxiliary also handed out flags at the parade. We teamed up with the Legion, so one half on one side and one half on the other. Within the last 2 events that we had, from the Fall Festival, we went back to the post and did a Veterans Resource event. And then this last Saturday, we also had a chili cook-off that was for the community and raising money for the holiday baskets that we provide the community. We raised over $4,300. So that was 2 successful events that we're pretty happy about. Still trying to make sure that we have everything needed for the holiday baskets and whatnot. Our auxiliary is hosting a mom prom. If you've seen that, the fee to get in, the mom prom is non-perishables in lieu of donations. So if anybody is wanting to, put on some dress shoes and come on out on Saturday at 6 p.m.
What is a mom prom? I feel like I'm out of it and I don't know something I should.
I had to get this one explained to me also when it
Okay,
was
good.
presented as
Okay.
for the auxiliary. It's basically for individuals that are not of traditional prom age to be able to go have a night out. We've had some individuals that have done TikTok type thing, invites for their partners to come on out to the mom prom. It's gonna be themed. It's time to remember. We'll have a backdrop. We'll have decorations, things of that manner. Prizes, king and queen. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones, but to bring it back to prom days. So it's open to everybody. And again, it's just a nice little way of trying to bring in some non-perishables.
Right. And when was that again?
That is this Saturday at 6 p.m. and we have the Austin Ross Band who is playing. They actually gave us an extra hour based on our cause. So they're starting at 6 and it's 6 to 10. So.
All right, so if you missed your high school prom, this is your...
Or if you're missing your high school prom, come on down. Let's see. The VFW Warriors have an event at Post 3917, which is near Sunshine Studio, where it's going to be a community expo. There is the VFW Warrior ride earlier in the day that will be going throughout Colorado, but the expo is from 2 to 6, so, and it's everybody's welcome to go up there. They'll have swap meets. They'll have a bunch of community expo type events going on there. We do have a flag retirement scheduled for September 28th at 9 a.m. If anybody would like to come, one of the local news stations donated or provided over 5,000 flags for us to retire, so we have our day cut out for us. Other than that, I don't think I have anything unless you have any questions.
All right, that 5,000 flags, sounds like we need the fire department there for, that's a lot of flags. Okay, well, thank you so much, and thanks for everything you guys are doing. Appreciate both of you being in the parade and supporting the community, and then you guys had how did your event go on Labor Day?
Very nice. Labor Day, we had quite a few individuals coming in. We had a VSO stationed there, and they were able to contact quite a few people and then get the word out.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. All righty. Well, I'm going to make an executive decision. It's 7:36, so we're going to take a 5-minute break before we start the, getting into the actual agenda. So 5 minutes is 7:41. All right. All right, let's book, folks. Let's get back to business. All righty. We are on item 7, consent agenda. All items listed in the consent agenda are considered, is everybody back? I didn't even check. Okay. Are considered routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of council. We have item A, approval of the minutes. What would council like to do? Councilmember Rick.
Move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Councilmember Hersberg.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Item 8.
7 yes, motion carried.
Oh, sorry. I'm really moving. Sorry. Just feel free to just interrupt. All right. Item 8, old business. A, second reading of ordinance 1801, an ordinance repealing and reordaining section 050, open carrying of firearms of chapter 32, dangerous weapons, within Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare of the Fountain Municipal Code regarding firearms in city facilities. Mr. Johnson, 3 minutes. Oh, it says 5. Okay.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Well, I'll make it easy. There's been no changes, and so if there's anything that council would like to discuss or any questions, I'm open to it, but it's the same ordinance as first reading.
Okay, is there any questions for anybody for Mr. Johnson? Okay, seeing none. Anybody from my one audience member that's remaining? No. Okay. All right, you get individual attention tonight. Look at that. All righty. What, Councilmember Duncan?
I'm making a proposed motion.
Yes, please.
I move to approve ordinance 1801 on second reading.
Councilmember Applegate?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much. That takes us on to item 9, new business. 9A, consideration of items removed from the consent agenda. There were none removed. Item 9B, resolution number 24-033, a resolution amending the appropriation of fiscal year FY 2024 budgeted funds. Ms. Dale.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just tonight, I have the second supplemental appropriation for the 24 budget of the year, and this one is actually very small, very short, only involves the general fund. And as you all know, we adopted the 2024 budget on December 12th of 2023. We did the first budget supplemental amendment on April 9th, 2024. And since then, of course, there are more expenditures that were unplanned that have come up for a variety of reasons. However, the brunt of this supplemental tonight is actually from the FEMA and the state grant for the city trails and the pump park at Metcalf that Gordy brought to you back in August and was already approved by ordinance 24-31, I think it was. So with that, Chris, if you'd go to the next slide, please. So this is the exhibit. It is, like I said, it is just for the general fund. So with the revenues, we have an adjustment of an increase on the general fund revenues of $245,000. The biggest piece of that is about $225,000 for the FEMA and the state combination revenues for the Trails grant that Gordy already brought to you and you already approved. On the expense side of that, we actually have a couple of things that are just reclassifications within the expensive, one of which is $50,000 for the consulting firm for the third-party planning review fees to help Christie. Another piece of that is $11,000 for a replacement brush cutter for the Parks Department through salary savings. And then there is also on the revenue and expense, you'll see $22,000 for RRT headsets reimbursed through the SIF fund for the police department. At the bottom there, you'll see $254,000, which was the total award from the prior resolution for the city parks and trails. And so with that, I would just recommend that council approve the budget supplement for the second one for fiscal year 2024. Overall, the net decrease to the general fund balance is only $49,000. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Shauna? How about if I don't ask you, and if you do, you'll raise your hand? Does that work? Okay. All right. All right, thank you very much. Okay, what would council like to do with this? If I could have my screen back, please. Councilmember Hertzberg?
To move to approve resolution number 24-033.
Thank you. Councilmember Duncan?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have first reading of ordinance 1802, an ordinance of the City of Fountain repealing and reordaining Chapter 17.16 of Title 17 of the Fountain Municipal Code to regulate harm reduction uses. Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We've had quite a bit of discussion on this matter as a council. I did want to give an update, though, to the council with another piece of the puzzle. As the council is aware, the city of Pueblo was sued for a similar ordinance, and I will let you know that the district court in Pueblo did find and issue an order regarding the merits of that case, and it was against the city of Pueblo for enacting that ordinance. And so the court in Pueblo did a pretty thorough review of the lawfulness of the order, or I'm sorry, the lawfulness of the ordinance, and made a couple of findings that I'll share with the council, because it gets into whether or not this is something that we can do as a home rule municipality. And the court in that matter found, because the primary issue is preemption, right? Is the city's ability to do something that is potentially in conflict with state law. And so the court first had to address whether or not this issue of harm reduction, specifically the needle exchange program, was a matter of statewide concern or local concern. And ultimately, the court in Pueblo found it to be a mixed concern. And so there's not necessarily a clear answer on that. And so you have to look at then, well, are the two laws in conflict with each other? And the court found that that while there wasn't necessarily a direct or even implied conflict, that in practice and operationally there was a conflict between the two laws. And so then the court did a brief analysis of the ordinance itself and found it to be overbroad, and basically a complete prohibition on the needle exchange program was I think she called it incongruent with the state law. And so I think there's a lot of argument within that case that would apply to how we would argue that case. And while we're not beholden to the ruling of a district court judge in Pueblo County, it would certainly give credence to the arguments against an ordinance like this. And so, I think it was interesting that the court made a specific mention of the ordinance not being narrowly tailored enough, that just an outright prohibition was the primary problem with the ordinance, and that's how this one in front of you is drafted tonight, is a prohibition. And that if it were narrowly tailored, for example, I think, and we've had some discussion, if it was potentially a one-to-one needle exchange, limiting to that, or limiting it to only being allowed in a certain zone district, or that it can't be operating within a certain distance of a school, right? If there were some limitations, that might be enforceable, but an outright prohibition with her analysis would be that it is not a lawful ordinance. So that leaves us in a bit of a tricky spot as we're in the middle of considering it, and we didn't have this before now, and we have it now. But at its best, it's a well thought out review of the current state of the law by a figure of authority, and so kind of practically what that means, I think, for the city is that if we pass an ordinance like this, we can expect a challenge. A district court in El Paso County may find differently, but you can almost guarantee that they're going to try. And I'm not sure that that's something that we necessarily want to get involved with, given what's been decided by a different court. So that's the newest update, and I know the council, we've discussed the feelings on general support of this, but it's hard for me to give you my recommendation with this new order. So I'll leave it at that, and obviously field questions.
I see your light. Hang on just a second. You felt going forward with this initially because they already had existing practices going on, so ours would be different enough where it wasn't like we're stopping something that's already existing.
Yeah, I think there wasn't a whole lot that the court focused on that. That didn't seem to be important, although that was the people that sued the city of Pueblo were the ones operating the clinic, and so they had standing to sue. I think that would be, whether or not it's a similar clinic or the ACLU could certainly claim, could try to get around that standing issue one way or the other. I imagine that they could come up with a creative way of doing that now that they have sort of the ammunition given to them by the district court in Pueblo.
Okay, Councilmember Rick?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Johnson, you said that the Pueblo District Court found that the ordinance was overly broad.
Yes.
And you have not had a chance to narrow our ordinance. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct, and for that matter, I wouldn't know where to start to narrowly tailor it. What's important to the council regarding any limitations? It's just up until this point been a prohibition.
Okay, so us tabling it for 90 days to give you to look at it probably isn't going to help.
No, what would help, and it would be ideas of how in our community we might want to give limitations to it, whether that be, like I said, zone districts, distance from schools, limiting the amount of syringes you can actually, a one-for-one exchange, things like that. Those are specific examples that the court gave.
Okay.
So it'd almost be more of a brainstorm about what we would want to do, rather than prohibit what we could do to manage it or manage our concerns around it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to let some other council members talk for a little bit.
Okay. Councilmember Hinton and then Councilmember Hersberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, ladies first. Ladies first.
The H gets me every time. I'm sorry, is it possible for us to sort of kind of stop where we are with this and be allowed an opportunity to regroup in more of a workshop setting where we could fully examine options and opportunities that might better align with what we'd like to do but stay clearly within the law?
I think so. I think that would make a lot of sense, and when I talk about a brainstorm, I imagine that would be a good venue for it.
So yeah, she took the words right out of my mouth. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I know I was on a little bit of a hard line stand last week when we discussed, but there are certain things that have come out now with the law and the decision. I really want to know more about that and have more of an educated decision, moving forward, and hear from many different folks.
Okay.
All right.
So essentially, we're going to be time, place, manner, potentially, and then the one-to-one.
Yeah.
Or not do anything, right?
Correct.
So
I think we have a lot of
okay.
different options
Right.
besides prohibiting.
So here's my concern, is how we handle this tonight. We need to make sure that we make a motion, right? Because I did read it in, nobody's made a motion, right? But if we don't make a motion, the thing dies, and then there's a certain amount of time before we can bring it back again. We can pass it as it is, and then you can have 2 weeks to make some major changes and see if that's where we were going. That's another option. Or we can make a motion to delay it to a certain date to bring it back. Those are our 3 options, is that correct?
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, so I want everybody to think about that for a minute. And then if, Councilmember Applegate, did you have another question?
No, I was just.
And we're not ready for a motion yet, so.
Okay, but I was just going to propose that idea. What if we just tabled it, we set a date? But I was going to ask Troy, what do you think? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? What are you thinking?
You know, I'm not sure what your work session schedule is to get on, you know, if you've got things slated for future
Well,
work
we only
sessions,
have
but.
the work session, first meeting of the month. And, I mean, we could call one, but we pretty much have them set, you know, first meeting of the month. But I understand your time schedule too.
Yeah.
So that said, understanding Mr. Johnson's time schedule, would council be willing to have a work session before the next council meeting at the end of the month? That's going to make a really, really long night since we do have the budget that night. But given Mr. Johnson's time frame, that might be the most expedient thing. And I do have Mr. Rick's, Mr. Rick, so.
I'm okay with having another work session, but, you know, I don't have the busy schedule that some of the other members on council, so I will defer to them. From a personal standpoint, I would, we're going into budget right now. We got a lot of heavy issues coming at us. So it may be something we may want to postpone longer. And I know that's a problem given Mr. Johnson's schedule, but throwing this on top of the budget and everything else we got, I think we may want to wait until the first meeting of next month to address it, but that's just me. I would like to get the staff's opinion on when they think it's best to reschedule it, given our schedule.
Councilmember Hersberg and then Hinton.
Yeah, I would just say the language in what we have is restrictive, I think, by design.
It is.
And I would see this as being pretty much a rewrite, not a slight modification. That's not something I would want to rush into. I would want to get a lot of feedback from law enforcement, from community, whatever, and then do it right. So that would just be my concern with sort of rushing a work session and maybe not getting it right the first time.
Yeah, I don't like to rush, but I'm.
Yeah, maybe, you know, council. What I might suggest is, you know, I think there's, you know, we've posted for the job. This might not be the worst thing for my replacement to be one of the first things that they work on. Because I think you're going to want a real dedicated legal analysis here. And so the reality is there's not a huge time clock on this. The sort of the fact that we don't have one is a good and bad for consideration, but it means that we have some time, I think, to consider this. We're not up against the clock as much as I thought. We were sort of racing against this order. And so I think we do have some time to like Councilwoman Hersberg said, to take our time and do this the right way. So that's what I would suggest, but obviously it's your decision.
Councilmember Hinton.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said. I think that this is something that should not be added on to a already going to be a time-consuming meeting that we need to talk about budget. I would not want to add this on there. It just does a disservice by doing that and not giving it its proper respect and attention that it needs. So I'm in agreement of having another meeting just on this alone.
Yeah, I would really be looking like into November, but just to give the new person, assuming we get someone hired,
yeah,
a little bit of time to, Councilmember Estes?
I agree. We can't rush this. It does a disservice to us to do the budget properly, and it does a disservice to the council and our citizens to do this ordinance properly. So I'm for putting this off a bit.
Scott, November?
I think I think that'll actually work far better for us, because Troy, in the few days he has left with us, has got a schedule that's just
Yeah.
unreal at this point.
Yeah,
Got a
I
long
didn't
list
know
of
if it was
things.
going to just be writing,
Yeah.
a few sentences in it or completely right, but if it's going to be a
But I
complete
think we can do
rewrite.
that, yes.
Okay, so, so a date-specific time, if that's what we choose to do tonight, might be considered November 12th. Otherwise, we get into December. So, Councilmember Applegate,
Do you want me to do a motion?
let's give it a first stab and see where, oh
Okay,
gosh.
so let's
yeah,
do this.
no pun intended. Is it?
Motion for
Oh, I'm
ordinance.
sorry. I'm sorry. Hang on just a second.
Go ahead.
Did I see your hand going up, or? Okay, thank you. Right. Please state your name for the record.
Steve Arce. And no, the only thing I want to add is that if you do want to postpone it, so I've been researching the literature over the last couple of weeks as far as what things have actually worked as far as restrictions go and limitations. And so I do have a lot of the background on it from all the way from California to Baltimore. So I would be more than happy to volunteer my time if you would like to take advantage of that information.
I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you hanging in here tonight. So, thank you very much. So, and you have his contact information, obviously, right? Okay.
Somewhere. Yeah, okay, great.
Alrighty. So it sounds like, Joni, we're going with a date specific, so I want to make sure we get the motion stated correctly.
Yeah, so it sounds like a motion could sound like a tabling the ordinance until, whatever date. Yeah, so it would actually be a pretty simple ordinance, or a pretty simple motion.
Are we doing a work session on November 12th, or are we bringing the motion back on November 12th? Because that's two different things.
So I think-
because his motion, or whoever makes the motion, has to be specific to the date we're bringing it back to the council.
Correct, so
Okay.
I would suggest bringing it back to the council with enough room to do a work session in between now and when this ordinance would come back.
Right, so if we don't do the work session until November 12th, then the first date we could, well, and I'm assuming in November, nobody wants to come in 2 days before Thanksgiving, so I'm assuming in November we will be meeting the 19th, and then that takes us to December 10th. Troy, do you think after a work session, if you were the attorney doing this, that 2 weeks would be enough time to do the rewrite after you got direction from the council, or?
I do, and it would be a little less because of the timeframes to get it in, but I think that would be enough time.
So you think November 19th would be enough time, or December 10th?
So if we had the work session on November 19th,
No, 12th. November 12th would be the work session.
I'm just, work session.
And
then
really,
bringing it
and
back
with
the
the council,
19th.
and with the council being bumped up a week, potentially, since we haven't voted on
Oh,
that.
I see. No,
That-
I don't think 1 week, that would basically be 1 day to prepare it, and I don't think that would be enough time.
Okay, so December 10th would be the earliest you would recommend for trying to bring it back?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Not to be totally confusing, but, so the motion needs to say that they would, something along the line of, they would make a motion to table this resolution until December 10th?
Yes.
Joni, does that work? Okay?
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I'm going to take a crack at it.
Okay.
Want to make a motion to table ordinance 1802 until the December 10th city council meeting.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Rick.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table the first reading of ordinance 1802 until December 10th. Did I state it correctly?
Yes.
Okay, please vote.
Should we be voting on first reading of ordinance, or should this be
We're
a different?
we're tabling the first reading.
That was just the title of the agenda
Oh.
item.
I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us on to item 9D, Resolution 24-034, a resolution establishing the city's position on migrant response and declaring status as a non-sanctuary city. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, council, and thank you, Mayor. This one has also been discussed at length with the council. It is just a resolution, but just to remind you, that's a resolution declaring the city of Fountain as a non-sanctuary city. I'm sure we've all kind of heard the news about you kind of have to pick one or the other. The reality being it doesn't have a huge impact on our operations because we don't operate a jail. But it is a political statement to make for our region regarding how we are handling immigration and our communication and relationship with federal immigration authorities. So I'll leave it at that, given our previous discussions on the matter, and be available for questions.
Okay. Are there any comments from any council members up here? Okay. I'd like to say again what this is not. This does not take away from anybody having the right to move around America and live where they want. This is just basically stating that we are not going to be spending city money to assist people who choose to come to this country, not legally, and we just want to have open dialogue with everybody about everything. But I think the concerns that have come out a lot are the amount of money that we see Denver and some of the other communities laying out to the point of it is affecting their city services and their public safety. And I think that's legitimate. So what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Applegate.
Motion to approve resolution.
I apologize. Can I forgot to ask our one audience member again. I didn't see, I saw you do this. I saw you do this, so I wasn't sure what, if that was just a hand raise or, no? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll throw it back to you.
Steve R.C. So I want to reiterate what I stated at the last meeting where there was a discussion regarding this. And, you brought up that we're being put in this choice of we're going to have to choose one or the other. And the reality is that we don't. We don't have to do that. Matter of fact, there's been a lot of criticism towards particularly the media about how it is dividing our country. I would propose that passing an ordinance like this, passing a proposal like this, passing a declaration like this, and especially with the mentality of, well, we got to do one or the other, that's what's creating the divisiveness. The bottom line is that, to steal somebody else's thunder, we don't have a dog in the fight on this. We don't get to dictate what federal policy is, and we're not going to get to add on to it, to the best of my understanding as to how it proceeds. It's not like the military where we can add on but not take away of, right? There's not bus loads of folks waiting in Pueblo to jump into Fountain, right? And aside from the pure hypocrisy of the situation to begin with, this is a political statement, and I'm not sure whether or not it is right to make a political statement supporting one party on behalf of the entire community, because we're not all one party. We don't have to be divisive about this. We don't have to be, it's this or that. And if you do that, you're contributing to the divisiveness. You're contributing to the us versus them. And I don't think that that's actually what we want in our community. We want a community as a whole. So for what it's worth, that's my 2 cents. And since I'm the only one here, there you go.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, your mic is on. Did you have something else to say?
Oh, I think that was well said. And, you know, I guess that's what I was saying is that, yeah, the political environment seems to have forced us into a choice, right? I don't think there's a legal obligation to choose. So I think that's accurate. And so that's, I think, you know, I think the council is a political body, and they can make political statements, you know, although that being a local body, I think, you know, when you get the difference between political and partisan, I think, is a difficult distinction sometimes. So I think there are many opportunities and situations that call for the council to make a statement. And the question is, do you want to? And that's the question for the council now.
Okay. No, we don't give you 2 bites at the apple. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Send me an email. All right, I'm going to go ahead and, I did actually stop Councilmember Applegate when he was starting to make the motion. So I'm going to go back to him, and then I see lights on, but then, so then it will go to if there's any deliberation about the motion, okay? Okay. All right, so Councilmember Applegate.
Motion to approve Resolution 24-034.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Councilmember Rick?
Sorry, I was, had something else.
Okay, all righty. Do we have a second? Okay, I will make the second. Thank you very much. Is there any further deliberation from anybody that had their lights on? Councilmember Rick?
I want to confirm with Mr. Johnson and Ms. Carneal. Under our current regulations, rules, ordinances, we are not allowed to abstain. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Councilmember Duncan?
I had a question since I was not here during the conversation. One question is for our city manager. Do we have or any documentation of any immigrants here or migrants here in Fountain?
No, we don't have any.
Okay, my second question, there was a statement made by our, I don't understand the us versus them comment. So, city attorney, you said there was a statement you made, and I don't understand that statement. Can you verify that? About the, we either do it, something
Yeah.
like that.
I think I suppose what I'm referencing is most cities around the state have felt the need to either declare themselves as sanctuary cities or non-sanctuary cities. And it's kind of, the metro area, the city of Denver has declared themselves as a sanctuary city, and that has legal significance to them. And the city of Colorado Springs, I maybe shouldn't speak because I don't know 100%, but I believe they've declared themselves as a non-sanctuary city. And so I think there has been political pressure for our city to make a decision one way or the other, to declare ourselves as either a sanctuary city or a non-sanctuary city. So that's all that I was referencing, is that there seems to be this, and I think Mr. Arce described it well, this political pressure to either choose one team or the other. While we don't necessarily have to do that, I think we have been getting pressure from the region to do that. And so that's what I was referencing.
You said the region?
Yeah, I think specifically El Paso County, they operate our jail, and they've been pretty adamant politically about where they stand, and I think they want our support, particularly on this matter, even if it's just political.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hertzberg?
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Arce for his comments, because after the last meeting, your comments really had me digging deeper into my thoughts about this. And I had follow-up conversations about choosing or doing nothing. So in my homework, part of that was to go back and to re-listen to the presentation that we had from our sheriff back at the end of May. And he really addressed that question in his presentation, was that by not making a statement, in his opinion, you really were. That didn't fully sell me on my position until I really read how this ordinance is written and how the way it defines what a sanctuary city is. It limits cooperation with federal immigration authorities. It limits or fails to provide information about immigration status. Whereas a non-sanctuary city, we are going to fully disclose, we are going to fully cooperate. So I'm independent. I'm not political about this at all, but I do support my law enforcement. And if this, even as just a show of support, helps law enforcement outside our borders, I would be in support of it. So me voting yes or no has absolutely nothing to do with politics, but it has everything to do with public safety. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Hinton?
Well, Councilwoman Hertzberg took the words right out of my mouth after that presentation that we have by Sheriff Rowell. I'm in support of public safety. I've been on record for that, and I'm not going to turn my back to that. And that presentation gave me a lot of insight into whether my decision will be yes or no, and it has nothing to do with my political affiliation. That goes off to the side, but I do support our public safety and our police officers in regards to this. So that's all I have to say. I want to make sure I get that on the record.
Councilmember Estes?
And I want to appreciate Mr. Arce and his comments too, and fellow council members. To me, again, this is a spit into the ocean. We can't do anything about this. We need to be talking to our federal legislators. We need to be talking to the state legislators. That's where something can be done. Making a statement, and to me, I think that we go against law enforcement if we say we're a sanctuary city. Us not doing anything, I'm sorry, that is another option, and like I said, I do believe that's an option. I just don't, it's torn me up because I'm like, I get it. I don't want what's happening in Aurora happening here, but this is a tough, tough decision.
And the people I have talked to are not in one party. In fact, some of the people I have talked to that are the most passionate about being a non-sanctuary city are people that are immigrants themselves, who came to America, went through the long process, and became citizens and are extremely proud to be sworn in as American citizens. And some of them waited in line for years. I've worked with immigrants before on a volunteer basis when Saigon fell. I was just a teenager, but my parents said it's important to get involved and help people, learn how to live in this country. And I think there's just a lot of concerns. And I agree with Councilmember Estes. We do need to speaking to our federal and state officials. But they need to be hearing from us too that the laws that they are passing are affecting us dramatically and affecting the way our law enforcement can do work. And so my vote will reflect that tonight. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor unless there's any further deliberation. All right. Seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, one no. Motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you. And City Council agenda requests, are there any tonight? All right, no executive session? All right, this meeting is adjourned.